Let's take a quick look at how we're going to add a new channel using Zapier. For those of you who have never heard of Zapier, Zapier is a tool that allows you to connect apps you use every day to automate tasks and save time. You can connect any of their 1,000 plus integrated apps together to make your own automations. And what's more, it's quick and easy to set up, and you don't need to be a developer. Anyone can make a Zap. As mentioned, there's over 1,000 apps, and that ranges from Google Sheets to Gmail to Twitter, Facebook, Dropbox, Salesforce.com, Dynamics CRM, and more. One of the apps that you can actually use is the AppsForOps Timeline app. And this means that you can actually push any data onto your timeline that comes from these 1,000 plus apps. So for example, if maybe a new Salesforce opportunity changes its status, you can automatically pick up on that and you can push that onto an AppsForOps timeline. Or perhaps in another scenario, if someone registers for a Gotowebinar, you might want to push that to a contacts timeline, and you can do that using Zapier. AppsForOps has created a rich integration into Zapier, and we've also created a number of different templates that you can use to easily create these integrations. The good news is even if we don't have one of these templates created for you, you can very easily and simply create these using the Zapier dashboard. Zapier has a free plan and it's free to start off, so all you need to do is log in and sign up, and then you can start creating new Zaps. To make it easier for you, on the AppsForOps.com timeline homepage, we have actually put together and surfaced a number of different Zapier integrations and templates that we've already set up for you. So if you click on the Explore Integrations button, you'll see there's a raft of different things that we've already configured for you. For the sake of this session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to add a new Gotowebinar Registrant to an AppsForOps timeline. So I'm simply going to come in here and I'm going to say use this Zap. This will open me up a Zapier window, and I'll just make it full screen so it's easy for us to see here, and you'll see it gives me some details on this specific Zap. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say create this Zap. The first thing that it's going to do, it's going to ask me for what's going to trigger off this Zap to happen. And in this case, what I want to do is I want to pick up when a new registrant is added to a Gotowebinar, I want to be able to push that onto an AppsForOps timeline. So if I click on next, the first thing it's going to do for me is it's going to ask me to go away and to log into Gotowebinar. As I've logged into my Gotowebinar account before, it brings that up for me and I can just click save and continue. The next thing it's going to ask me to do is to select which webinar I want to pick up these new registrants from. And in this scenario, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on the drop down list box and I'm just going to use the sample webinar. You'll see that it goes away and it discovers some fields from that sample webinar, and what it's going to do, it's going to go pull in a sample registrant from that specific webinar. So if I expand here, here's some of the details that Gotowebinar can provide us when someone registers to attend that webinar. And that ranges from first name, last name, their email address, and so on and so forth. If I click on continue, what you'll notice is it goes on to the next part, and that's called the action. So when someone registers for this Gotowebinar, what I would like to do is I would like to go and create a new timeline entry in AppsForOps Timeline. So I'll come through the action and I'll select create new timeline entry. And what it's going to do, it's going to ask me for which AppsForOps timeline would I actually like to go and write this entry to. So it brings up the AppsForOps timeline box and I'm going to click connect, and the first thing that it's going to do for me is going to ask me to go away and get my API key. It tells me I can get the API key by going to settings and API key in AppsForOps timeline. So let me head over there. I'll come in here and I'll come up to the settings menu, and if I come down to API key, I will have the ability to now go and generate a new API key. So when I click on the button, what I can do is I can now click on this key. It will copy it to my clipboard and I can go back and use that inside Zapier. So I'll come back here into Zapier, and what I will do is I will paste this key in and I will just say yes, that I would like to continue. What this is going to do, it's going to go away and it will actually set up that specific connection for me, and I can go away and rename that should I want to, but I'll just click next. Now, because it's a template that's already been set up for me, what I've managed to do is we've managed to already map all of these different fields for you. So the standard fields that you would need to map into a timeline is basically a source. So this is the name of the channel, and in this case it's going to be Gotowebinar. Here I've used some dynamic fields to set up the titles. I can say here that there's a new registrant, and I've picked up the first name, Bruce Brown from playplaycompany.com. And how I can get these is, you can see by clicking this drop down list box, I have access to all of the fields from that Gotowebinar registration. Similarly, in description, I've put some more details in there. I've used Bruce's email address as the to email address, and I've built up his display name using his first and last name. And then what I've done is I've actually said that this is just from gotowebinar@appsforops.com and to the display name. Really, the thing that's going to connect this into the channel for me is it's going to see which is the source here, and it's going to use this to email address to write it to this specific user's timeline. What I also need to do is provide it a created by date time. So what I'll do is I'll come down here and let's look at where we have a date time here. So we will just use the registration date down here. Okay, now before I can actually set this up, what I need to do is I need to go and create this specific channel inside AppsForOps Timeline. So I'm just going to copy Gotowebinar and head back over here, and in the channels menu I'm going to come and I'm going to extend that, and I'm going to say that I would like to add a new channel. In the channel name, I'm just going to give it the name Gotowebinar, and I'm going to save that away. And what that means is that that channel is now activated and it's ready to start receiving data from Zapier or Microsoft Flow or another source. So what I'll do here is I'll come back and I will go through and say continue. And what this will do is it will start to generate me a sample that it's going to try to push across to my timeline, and let's see if it actually writes it onto the timeline. So I'm just going to say send the test to AppsForOps Timeline, and what we'll see here is it will go away, it'll call AppsForOps Timeline, and it says that this has been successful, which is good to know. So if I come back in here into the timeline and I come up into channels, what we'll notice is that the new Gotowebinar channel loads for me. It gives me a nice visual indicator to say that there is actually one item that's actually been added. And if I come into the landing page, I can go and I can actually see the details of that Gotowebinar registration. I can go through and see all of the items, the unread items or the read items. And what I can do here is I can see that there was a new registrant, Bruce Brown. What I can do is I can automatically click on Bruce's name, and what this will do is this will take me to his specific timeline. So here I can see that we've exchanged some emails, I assigned a task to myself, and here I can see that he has actually registered for this Gotowebinar. Should I want to see some more details, you'll see that in the background it refreshed some of my MailChimp data as well. And I can go ahead and I can expand one of these entries, or I can go through and expand all of them to see exactly all of the activity that Bruce has currently had with us, which is really, really nice to see. If I come back into the channels menu, I can select channels and go back to Gotowebinar, but you can also use this backlink, which will take you back to the previous page. There's a number of other things that I can do here. I can obviously go sort and search on this specific channel. And what I can also do here is I can start to send this contact some information using maybe perhaps a specific template. So here if I select send email using a template, it brings me up my different templates. Or if I just want to send this contact an email, this will automatically open up a new email for me. Or again, if I wanted to go see this user's timeline, I can just select show timeline, and it will again go away and show me that user's timeline, which is really, really nice to be able to bring all of this data together. Now, just in case we haven't set up one of these predefined templates for you, no worries. What you can actually do here is you can come in, you can say, I'd like to create a new Zap. And again, you can just very easily map those fields in from one system to another. So generally, you've always got to choose a trigger or something that's going to happen. And then what you do here is in the action, you come into choose app, and all you need to do is just search for AppsForOps Timeline. And you can come in here and configure it up. And again, go through the wizard as exactly what I showed you previously. And this will allow data to flow into a timeline from 1,000+ systems that may be out there. Hope that's been helpful, and looking forward to some of the amazing things you do with the AppsForOps Timeline.